Hi, Davi here, and today we have a new episode in the Art of Davi YouTube channel. And today we'll be checking out the work of 96 Yo T, or just 96. In the past few episodes in the Art Review series, we were kind of exploring a different or a very specific style when it comes to character art. And just check out the past 3 videos. I will link them in the description below. So as much as those or that kind of aesthetic is cool, I want to explore a different kind of style, I guess. It's a bit more dramatic, a bit more painterly. There's not a lot of line work when it comes to these sorts of artwork. Maybe a bit, but it's mostly like they feel like they could be cover art or poster, wallpaper types of pieces where they're meant to stand alone. It's not really about the design. In the past few episodes, it's more about like there were a lot of like character sheets involved, a lot of design explorations, and it seems like you're really trying to show off certain design elements. But for these types of paintings and illustrations, I feel like it's more about the the emotion. And it's not always that detailed. Now, if you're more of the impressionistic, painterly type of person, I think you're going to love these following artists that I'm going to be exploring in the following days. Now, for today, I think we're going, not I think, we are exploring the work of 96 OT. So let me just, pick some favorites here. Even from the thumbnail view, it looks readable. I do notice a lot of dark, like the black. Is it black being used? Like very dark, contrasted pieces. Lots of Chainsaw Man fan art here. And I think if you're trying to work on your style, try to pick a subject that you like. I don't think it's a good idea to try and design something while at the same time figuring out what your style is. Like you're coming up with the idea of the subject, but you're also trying to figure out the way it should look. I think you're doing too much, especially if you're just starting out. I think you can save time by just picking, say, an anime you like or a book, movie you like, and then sticking to that subject while you figure out your painting style. And I think that's a great way to kind of approach this artistic path in a more chilled out manner. Now, if you go back further, you can actually see some style changes and explorations. I will also link a previous art review of, I think, John Kafka, because you can see like the style isn't always consistent, and that's a good thing because you can see the development over time. And what I do like about these artists is that you can see like an entire feed of their work, so you can see the progress, the experiments they make, the mistakes sometimes. And now as we go further back, it does become less illustrative. It's more like sketchy, and it's not like a fully finished or complete piece. So we'll stick more to his or her or this artist's recent work. So let me just select a few more. Oh, I like this one. So yeah, I do know these are Chainsaw Man characters. And if you look at the color hues, the hues or colors, it's not very complicated. It seems like they're sticking to just like a black gray and then one major accent color. And then that's pretty much it. Because once you have that established, you can always add more colors eventually. So in a way, you don't have to overwhelm yourself by having to think about every single hue or color in the color palette, right? Or color wheel. You can just keep you can just keep things simple, and yeah. Shit, I have so many tabs open. If you zoom in, I do think they sharpened the image after. I'm going to assume this was done. It feels like it was done in Photoshop for me. Maybe some gradient maps were used in the end, because if you look at the shadows of the the fabric here, there's a bit of like yellow or green, and obviously this is zoomed in. You can definitely tell that it's very it's not very clean, and I don't mind that. I actually like it whenever I see it in these types of because it has a certain effect. Because if it's too clean, it feels like it's meant to be, I don't know, in a manga cover or something. But this feels more like it could be in a poster or a print or a shirt, right? Like it has a certain aesthetic for impact, or emotion, you know. So I think, yeah, like you're in a way you have to fill in the gaps, and it helps you participate, I think, because if everything is filled out, everything, like you have the line work, you have the background filled in, you have everything. I think as much as that's cool, and it is cool, and it's not wrong to do those types of illustrations, I feel like it's too much sometimes, or it can be too much. So you're not really working to figure out what things are. But if you have this approach where you maybe focus on the face, making sure it's, you know, tight and somewhat clean, and then everything else is somewhat impressionistic, energetic, dynamic, I think it works. Like it can carry the piece, and it's a bit more like it has more movement, I believe. I also noticed there's a bit of noise or some kind of paper texture added in the end, aside from the sharpening. And if you look at the skin tones, it's I don't see a lot of hue variety. There are some hues like some blue greens, some orange, right, in the hands, but and in the shirt. But it's not that like you're not exploring the entire hue rainbow, right? Now for the hair, it's not typical. It's kind of consistent. Like the way the fabric is done is similar to how the hair is done. It's not like because if you've seen lots of anime types of artwork, there is a certain way of rendering like the folds, and it's pretty similar to how they render the hair. So in this case, for this artist, for 96, like the clothes are rendered the same way the hair is, and I do see a lot of rake brushes being used to kind of drag the paint around. And it's obviously one of those things that make your style your style. You know, the brushes you use, maybe you have one special brush, maybe you have maybe you like adding a certain texture to your work, right? And for the color scheme, I do see a bit of greens here in the bottom. It's complementary to the reds in the jacket of, I think this is the Evangelion chick. I forgot her name, the German chick, right? And the face, I think it's important whenever you do these types of pieces, you want to make sure that the face and the hand is clear. Because if everything is as messy as, say, the hair or the clothes, like you don't have anything to focus in on. Like you need some kind of anchor, and that anchor has to be something that it has to be like tight or solid, or like you can't question it, like it's so obvious that it's there. So I think obviously when you're doing character art, it would have to be like, I've noticed for this guy's work or this chick's work, this artist's work, it's going to be the face and the hands. Like there's no question, you know where things begin, where things end. There's no like impressionistic vibe to it. Maybe with the rendering, say for the ears in this case, but if you look at the face, if you look at the hands, it's fairly tight. You can see a bit of line work in the edge, so there's kind of like a silhouette vibe to it. Maybe this is the orange line here. Maybe it's the original sketch. Who knows? But yeah, I don't see a lot of brush textures being used. I mean, I do notice the noise texture added after with the sharpness also, but when it comes to the brush work, I don't see like very, excuse me, just had some coffee. I don't see very experimental brushes. I feel like they're very basic to an extent, you know, simple. But yeah, I love the chaos, you know. Oh, this is the Apothecary Diaries chick, Mau. She's kind of hot. And yeah, she's actually kind of smart. She's not like a super, you know, the typical dumb, like, kawaii. A very interesting anime series that's going on right now. Now the hair is a bit more defined, I think. So it's a bit rendered in the typical way whenever you see anime art or anime inspired art, like this kind of rendering style, especially for this bangs area and this part here, it's very typical. You know, the way they section out the hair. In the background though, as you like the ponytail or the braids, it does become more impressionistic. And yeah, for the line work, I do know there's a bit of it, but it's not like black. I do recommend maybe trying out. I've seen this before in other kinds of character art where they use red or orange for the line work, because it kind of goes with the skin, but at the same time it's not as painful to look at in the eye, you know. Because if you use black, it's a bit too obvious. And I do like his pieces, like or this artist, his or her, this person's there's a certain series of paintings that they do where it's a bit super like dark and epic, not epic but like it's eerie but in a cool way, especially when it comes to the Chainsaw Man characters, like the way they do the eyes. It's going to be like the most glowing thing, and then everything else is dark. It has like the power, dramatic, like in your face, like no question kind of vibe. Like you can't not look away. And it's kind of just maybe not eerie, it's not the word, it's just more like there's a strength to it. You know. And there's hardly any colors here. It's pretty desaturated. The only thing that's super saturated would have to be the eyes. And again with the rake brush, and look at how it's not even that fully rendered or fully painted in the bottom. It's fairly impressionistic. Although as you go further into the areas in light, you can tell it's a bit more defined. It's not fully defined, but it's a bit more cut, you know, where some things end and where some things begin. In this case, the color, right, for both the blazer and the, you know, the polo shirt thing. And again, the face, it's clear. I do, you know, painting in the mouth oftentimes I think is difficult because it's a bit delicate and you hardly see it, kind of like the nose. So you kind of, sometimes you can do too much and sometimes do too little. So finding that right balance, I think, is you definitely need to study these artists because they're the painterly type. So like the way they add in or make sure they still have some delicate parts. So obviously it's going to have some line work or some really delicate small brush strokes. Like you want to know how they deliberately add in those areas. And it's going to obviously going to be usually in the face and the hands, because that's obviously going to be the first thing you look at, you know, whenever you're seeing character art. It's the face and then the hands, because it's the most human aspect. We have a natural instinct, and in real life you don't really tend to look at people's like clothes or, you know, shoes. So again with the rake brush, now you can see here there are some playful colors in the background. Although it's still not the most dominant thing, they're more like accessories to the main, like contrasting thing. It would like, there's a huge chunk of black in the center of this piece running diagonally. You know, I actually do have an app here for a pen, but let me just try it for this episode because I want to try it in my videos. Let me see if it works. Whoa! I may use this more in my work, right? There's like a big chunk of black here that runs across this piece. And obviously the main thing here is you're going to look at first is actually the face, or maybe this, because there's a lot of contrast here and contrast here, and then it's split in the middle by this diagonal black thing. In comic art, like Western comics, I've heard some advice where, I'm not sure where it came from, but you can, like, you want to try, and let me just try it again. You want to try and make sure that the black parts are kind of continuous. So when it's just white and black, whenever you're doing your inking phase, if you have this one continuous playful black area and it looks good in that level, then your piece is going to look good in the end with the colors, with the rendering, whatever. So maybe this is what this guy is doing, who knows, but yeah. Oh, this one feels more pastelish. It's not as sharp as his other work. I do like the way the background was done here, right? This part here. Very playful, very colorful. And still lots of black. I don't think this artist, he's kind of like Alvaro Castañeda, the watercolor artist. I did an art review of the guy before. Like, you don't have to be afraid to use black, because I think it really helps to, especially if you're going for more impactful or really high contrast work. Obviously it works even more because the suit is black, right? And the hair is black, but it just has a certain effect, you know? Because you're almost always going to expect some kind of color when it comes to digital paintings, but it's kind of like the opposite of seeing a white canvas. So it has a certain pull. It does feel, again, a bit more pastel-y, especially with these strokes here, like lots of pencil strokes. And I think the rake brush also adds to that effect. I like the way the patterns were done here. You know, it's a bit direct, it's a bit loose. It's kind of like a gouache sketch or painting, right? And in a way, this does look like an editorial illustration a bit, you know? So the background is really nice. I really like this. Obviously, the face is cool. And when it comes to the eyes, it's almost always glowing at you, right? And yeah, I do notice that it's not as rendered. If you see other pieces of artwork in the anime style, they do like to, or a lot of artists like to render out the eyes. So you'll see like an entire color wheel in the eyes. One of my favorite pieces of this artist, 96, it's just very perfect. I love the background. It's not just a fill color. Like, you can see some erased parts here, and I think it adds a bit of oomph to the background. If these specific things did not exist, it's going to be a bit boring, but it has that imperfect look to it. It feels like an oil painting too. Oh, a bit of texture brushes here. I can see some breakage, you know, the dotty things. But for the most part, I think he's using, or she, or this, or they're using a rather solid looking brush. Again, with the eyes, it's glowing. The face is rendered. The gloves, there's a bit more rendering involved. It's still not exact, right? But I do like seeing like the different, or the range of values. So you'll see a darker part here, like a core shadow in a sense, some reflected lighting, you know. It really helps to add some life to your to your paintings, obviously, but also I think it's reflective of the actual texture of the glove, because gloves tend to be like leathery, right? So you do see it has a vibe it has a reflective vibe. So it kind of makes sense. Now for the suit, of course, it's going to be a bit more, I guess, silky or something, like very plain. So you don't see a lot of like this type of rendering, because it's not really indicative of the texture. And yeah, very painterly. Again, not a lot of texture. Very strong blacks, not afraid to use them. And once you go this dark, it's like there's hardly anything within. Like, you can see some slight value changes, but it's not that apparent. Like, whenever you're doing this, you don't have to completely make it black, because I've seen manga art where they completely darken the piece, where it's just like a fill color thing, and then they, you know, fill the tool, or they use the fill tool. It's a bit boring for me anyway. I think having a slight variety in them adds a bit more story, I guess. Now the face, again, it's a bit clean. Not a bit, it is clean. And it works. I like it. Maybe you like it. And again, how many colors are, in this piece? It's the red, or the pink red. You can see some of it here reflected. in the hair, but actually if you zoom out, it has a bit of green. So it's not a fully gray suit. There's a bit of like a tint of green with the gloves and the tie here. So it's complementary to the red of the background and the eyes. Even the shadows here, or the reflected stuff in the hair, there's a kind of a green tint to it. So yes, I do recommend you check out this artist, and we'll run through because I think we're going too much, or we're extending too much when it comes to this video. But yeah, if you're going for a more painterly style, I do recommend the work of 96. Try to add like one special brush in this case for 96. They do like to use the rake brush for big strokes and for like mini strokes. And when doing painterly stuff, try to make sure you at least have a couple of things a bit more defined. So here we have a time-lapse video, line sketch done in the beginning. It's not as clean, it's not like inked or anything, it's more like a finished pencil sketch, and then some flats for the blazer, the polo, the hair, and then with the hair, basically just one major light area. I still have no idea how to do the hair, but it looks amazing just seeing it right now. And then the oh shit, that went fast, but yeah, it's basically one major color here, one major color here. It's pretty much just white, and then this one's more of a blue gray or something, and then there's a paint over. So basically you hardly ever see the original pencil sketch. And I think they do edit it in the end a bit, like liquefy, I think, somewhere here. There you go. I do think this was done in Clip Studio Paint, if not Procreate, but I do think this seems like a Clip Studio Paint thing. Let me just pause it because I kind of want to. Oh, so it's a basic round brush, fuck. And then they do spend time with the folds. And then in the end, once you do the paint over, then they do add, the rake brush, add some finishing touches. And look at how this part right here is hardly ever rendered, because it's in a darker area, so it doesn't really matter to be, or it doesn't have to be as rendered. You essentially want to pick one side that's a bit more rendered, and usually it's going to be the side in light. For example, for the hair, you can see way more detail in this part than say in this part of the hair, where the shadow is. And when it comes to the way it's painted, if you look at a lot of gouache paintings, it's not blended in. Like, they don't drag the paint often. There's a bit of that gouache layering rendering technique where you layer it via value. For example, you can make this arm feel more 3D if you add more values. And the more you mix it, the more it becomes more oily, or it looks more like an oil painting. So something to consider, right? Look at that. And again, given the amount of strokes here, the face, the hair, and the hands, it's a bit more clean, the skin part anyway. Excuse me. Oh, by the way, if you have, or if you like coffee, there's a creamer called Vanilla Caramel. It's good. Usually I just go for the hazelnut, but apparently my sister bought this vanilla caramel flavor. It's a creamer. It's it's good. It's not as sweet, but it's just good, Anyway, fuck, we're going overboard. So we'll just go. So just check out this guy, or this chick, or this artist. Definitely very playful with the brush strokes. If you're the chaotic kind of person, if you want a lot of emotional, impactful work, and you feel maybe you're kind of a doomer guy, doomer chick, and you're just kind of, in the tortured artist kind of phase or moment, I think 96 or 96 YOTA or YOTTEA, I think you can learn a lot from this this artist. Obviously, very focused on character art. Now, this one is actually kind of surprising because usually his pieces or her pieces or their pieces are a bit dark, so seeing a white background is a change. But it's still painterly, and the colors are kept simple. It's even though there's like a wide range of values, the hues are kept very within a certain frame. For example, it's just like pink red and then some blue gray for the shirt and some yellow. So basically primary colors, red, blue, yellow, but it's toned down, or what's the word, pastel. It's the pastel version where it's not as saturated. Maybe you can see a bit of it here, but for the rest of the piece, it's yeah, I like this rendering. It's a bit more, it's not as chaotic, but you can still tell it has that painterly aspect to it, which I do like. So, I love the hands. It's also a way more painterly than say the face. The face is way more tighter, and maybe some parts of the hair. Oh fuck! In this case, the detail is more prominent in areas in shadow because there's the light is coming from the back, right? But you can hardly see any details in the light, the lit part, or the light part of the hair. So you can see more detail in the darker side, in the shadow side. So I remember seeing this. I think was it like I saw a tutorial of it here on Twitter. I forgot to post it, but or was it Dino Illus something? He's or she or that artist is another artist that's kind of in the same realm as 96. I think we're going to review their work next. But basically, you want to pick a side, whether it's the light side or the dark side of the subject, and make sure you do more rendering on one side if you want a dramatic effect. Now, I think we reviewed one piece where it's a bit more in the light side, and in this case, for this piece, for this character, it's more on the darker side. And then areas in light, for example, in the jacket here, it's just one major block of like hue or color, right? So yeah, interesting. So lots of Makima. Maybe a graded map was used in the end after all of this painting. A bit of blur, right? A bit of RGB, I think shift, perhaps. One of my favorite pieces too. It's so like hot. Like even the red, or what is it, orange red or something? It has like a certain sizzling effect. Like whenever you look at the sunset or the sunrise type of time zones or shit like time moments, it has like like it's like looking at you intensely. Hopefully you know what I mean. Like it's whenever you look at the sun or like volcanoes, there's like a hot element to it, like it's sizzling. I can't really explain it well, but hopefully you know what I mean. Again with the background, let me just use the pen again. Oh, yes, there you go. Add some random strokes or erase some shit, because if it's just like a plain white or a plain color, it's like it doesn't feel as raw, So you want to make sure, you want to capitalize on the imperfections. Now sometimes I do think it's a bit too sharpened for me. Like I do see these artifacts sometimes. I do like the look, but sometimes it's a bit much. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I actually do like it. But it's interesting. You don't really often see this level of sharpening in these types of paintings. Maybe a bit, but not to a point where you can notice these sorts of like artifacts. And I like how the way the nose is illustrated. It's very minimal, like one part of the nose, one side of the nose is simply lit, and then the nostrils are just kind of like drawn. They're not really painted, or they're hardly painted, very minimal. I like the hair. I like how it bleeds into the background, this orange part. Let me just, like, right? Like you can hardly see like a line here. There's a bit, but it's like blended in. Ooh. Knowledge. So yeah, I don't see, everything else is just orange. Maybe a bit of, everything is just orange and black. Maybe a bit of green, it's hard to see. A bit of rendering here for the folds. It doesn't have to be accurate. You just have to suggest like something's being pulled apart, right? Obviously, for this thing, it's in shadow, and also it's not really being pulled or pinched in any way. So you'll expect like less folds here. Here, obviously, because everything is pinching, you'll see more like chaotic shapes. Anyway, moving on. Fuck, 30 minutes. Shit, kinda hot. Belly. Yeah. Oh yes, Silmo. Silmo is also another artist. XILM. Shit, XILMO. I think I did an art review of that artist, but maybe we'll do another art review again, just to kind of, make things more complete. So yeah, you can tell by the pants, very artsy, right? Like it's not really that defined. There's hardly any line sketch. Maybe the main thing, or the main shape, main contour. But again, it helps if you have like a solid drawing of the face. Like I do think you need to spend time really cleaning up the face. And then once you have that, I think you can be more playful with everything else. Even the arms, the contour of the arms are set. Even if it's not clean, the line work anyway. It still feels pencily, but it works. So yeah, if you look at the areas in light, there's hardly any rendering, but in the areas of dark, in the shadow parts, there you'll see the life. Obviously the under thing here, the belly button, kind of hot actually, but yeah, I do see a lot of blur in the overall thing. So the focus definitely, I think, is on the belly actually, and then you start to see the face. And the most saturated thing here would have to be this kind of orange thing. And you add to that the contrast of this white plus this dark belly shadow with this saturated thing. Like I think this is the main focus, and then you start to look at the face. Shit, it's hot. Let's not gawk at this random person, but let's go. Again, this is the Ava chick, the German chick. Oh, I think we've already seen her. We have a few more. Same thing, Mamo. Here we have a bit of background. 96 doesn't usually do backgrounds. Well, I do like the. I think we'll just go back here. I just want to see it again. This shit. The one that looks pastel-ish with the... Oh yeah. I like this one. I mean everything, but also, because this one's kind of the odd one out because there's way more like hues in the background. Like I would expect like the background to be a bit more, maybe like purple, pink or something, to kind of make it more impactful. But it's it's interesting that sometimes it is. Yeah, just adds, you decide. You decide what to do. Although for me, I think the most impactful work, or the most memorable work rather, of 96 would have to be the pieces where the background is just simple. Oh shit, for the Malmo piece, the first one we saw, there is a bit of background, but it's not really a background, it's still part of the foreground, and that would be the plant. But it just feels more strong if because there's so much going on here already in the foreground. So simplifying the background, I think, can help with the contrast. I think that's my point. But anyway, oh yeah, it's the same German chick. I believe it is the Ava chick. Hopefully I'm right. Let me just zoom in a bit. Oh, I do notice a bit more. I mean, the rake brush is still there, but yeah, hardly any brush variety. It's just a basic brush, but it's so playful that it compensates. Like you don't need a texture brush if you have this kind of rendering or painting style where it's just like bold and playful and flavorful. Yeah, and again with the background, I think it's a good choice to keep it simple. Oh, for this Makima piece, it's more of like a cinematic shot. Oh, they did share a reference. Right here, it's from a K-drama show, I'm assuming. That's interesting. And yeah, if you want to practice your painting style, and just if you really just enjoy painting, you don't have to create an entire thing. You can just reference if you find a certain shot interesting, you can use that as reference. Remove. This is not. Sorry about that. You do not want to know what's inside that folder. Anyway, let me just hit the pen tool here. So yeah, you can save time by having a reference photo. Number one, you can save time by having a character that's already been set. So fan art or a pre-made character that you already like. And then if you have this one done, if you have this two done, then you can primarily focus on just painting. And I think that's a great way to offload a lot of that mental capacity of yours. Because if you really just enjoy painting, like, why do you have to think of everything? Like, not everything has to be like fully original, and besides, nothing is that original, you know. So save time, use reference. You can, by the way, it doesn't have to be fan art. You could just pick a design that's a pre-made kind of thing. Whatever. In this case, it's going to be anime fan art, and I'm going to assume most of you like anime to some extent. So, and yeah, once you have this established and this established, then you can just focus on having fun with the painting. And I think it works for artists like this because you can tell they enjoy the painting process, you know, the brush work and stuff, playing with the lighting, playing with the effects, the blur effect here, the noise texture, the sharpening of the whole thing later on. Because you can tell it's sharpened by the artifacts you see here. It's kind of like a white. It runs along the edges of different brushstrokes. And yeah. And I think they did made some changes. For example, this guy did not exist in the photo. Or maybe it was actually this chick or person, and then they just moved it to the left a bit. But obviously the main character here would have to be this Makima goddess or demon. I don't really read manga, but I think she's like not exactly a good person. Evil but hot. But yeah, I have seen the anime show. This guy's a bit more refined. Well, his blurred, but the shapes are fairly set to the point where you can actually see a face. So that's interesting. You do have to define the face a bit, but not so much that it distracts from the main chick or the main thing here, which would be our mommy Makima. For the background, I do see some colors, but it's very minimal. It's not the main thing. And what else? I think we have one more image. This type of painting reminds me of Wallop, right? He does like to use a lot of like blur techniques. And he likes to really paint everything from the background. Even if it's not as detailed, he likes to paint the background, the foreground and such. Anyway. But yeah, this is the we've already seen this, but one last look. And by the way, this person gets tons of freaking likes and follows. So yeah, if you're really into the whole impressionistic, painterly kind of approach and you like anime character art-esque vibes, then I do recommend you check out the work of 96 at 96 YOTTEA or YOT or YOT. YOT. So yeah, that's it for this art review. I will link all of the links in the description below, and yeah, I'll see you in the next art review. Bye.